On the world map, it looks small, almost insignificant. Yet this single body of water holds the power to shape global climate, fuel superpowers, and decide the fate of entire continents. A small sea in Southern America. On the map, it appears insignificant. Yet beneath that azure blue lurks a force capable of determining the fate of other continents. The deadliest hurricanes are born here, and the warmth that heats this land also sends vitality to Europe each winter. How can such a tiny sea control the global climate, energy, and even political landscape? On the world map, the Gulf of Mexico is just a small arc in Southern America. At first glance, it's merely a blue mark on the edge of the continent. But beneath this simple outline lies an extremely complex ecosystem, called by scientists the Earth's thermal river of the Western Hemisphere. Its area spans 1.55 million square kilometers, almost entirely surrounded by land, with only 2 narrow channels connecting it to the open ocean. It is this sea that gathers heat, spurs hurricanes, and delivers energy to the globe. For the United States, it is far more than just a body of water. It is a treasure trove of resources, a military barrier, even an engine that leverages the global climate. This small sea has long, inadvertently, dictated the pace of modern human life. Long before humans appeared, even before the American continent took its current shape, the Earth experienced tectonic plate fragmentation. About 200 million years ago, the supercontinent Pangaea began to break apart, and the Gulf of Mexico slowly formed in the fissures between these plates. Seawater from ancient oceans flooded into this depression, repeatedly evaporating under the scorching Mesozoic sun. Each drying left thick rock layers on the seafloor, reaching several kilometers in thickness. These layers later became North America's most peculiar geological foundation.
Millennia later, continental plates began to converge, and ancient rivers deposited silt over these rock layers. Buried deep underground, salt is not hard rock. Under pressure, it flows like thick honey. Over tens of millions of years, this layer continuously pushed upward against the crust, forming massive salt domes that pierced through the overlying sedimentary layers. Scientists call them salt dipiers. And this geological structure ultimately shaped the modern US economy. When humans finally drilled into the land above these salt domes, they discovered something more precious than gold, oil. Thus began history's irony. Now became the source of industrial power, and a focal point of global geopolitical contention. When the world began measuring wealth by the amount of oil extracted, the Gulf of Mexico became America's black gold treasury. Beneath that azure blue sprawls a vast network of oil pipelines, with drilling platforms operating day and night. Every drop of oil extracted to the sea surface is wealth gifted by ancient rock formations billions of years old. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, about 14.5% of U.S. crude oil production comes from offshore areas in the Gulf of Mexico. This figure may seem modest, but in the energy sector, it is enough to power millions of cars, aircraft, and countless factories across the nation. This Gulf is not just a resource treasure trove, but also America's national energy lifeline. If this system were to halt, the US economy would instantly suffocate. Yet behind this prosperity lies a little-known struggle. Texas, Louisiana, and other states vie with the federal government over ownership of offshore oil fields. Meanwhile, Mexico and Cuba also eye the energy reserves beneath these ambiguous maritime boundaries. The Gulf of Mexico is no longer just fuel, but also a symbol of sovereignty, a political bargaining chip. Moreover, while this sea's energy nourishes human civilization, it also deepens humanity's dependence on fossil fuels, slowly raising the Earth's temperature. The surface of the Gulf of Mexico appears no different from ordinary tropical seas. Blue and calm, warm, but beneath this calm lies energy ready to erupt at any moment. It is like a closed bowl, locking in the sun's heat, forming a warm water body several thousand meters deep. This is nature's giant furnace, evaporating trillions of liters of seawater daily. A powerful ocean current circulates beneath the surface, spinning like a giant vortex. This current originates in the Caribbean Sea, flows into the Gulf of Mexico, and merges into the Atlantic through the Florida Strait. Data from the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration shows that since 1970, the average sea surface temperature in the Gulf of Mexico has risen by over 1 degree Celsius, making it one of the fastest warming seas on Earth. And for every 1 degree Celsius increase in temperature, hurricanes gain even stronger energy. When a weak tropical storm enters this sea, the Gulf's heat acts like gasoline poured on flames, transforming the storm into a raging hurricane within hours. Hurricane Katrina in 2005, Hurricane Rita, and Hurricane Ida in 2021 all evolved into devastating storm beasts only after traversing this sea. The Gulf of Mexico endowed them with power, yet also bore the brunt of their fury alone. Waves as high as several stories, rainstorms that flood cities. But not all energy is released through hurricanes. Some of the heat quietly flows into the Atlantic with the Gulf Stream. This warm current becomes Europe's lifeline. Ironically, this sea that brings disasters to America saves another continent from severe cold. The heat nurtured by the Gulf of Mexico does not stop there. Part of it travels north with the Gulf Stream. This massive warm current crosses the Atlantic and reaches Europe. This is why London's temperature is 10 degrees Celsius higher than Canadian cities at the same latitude. For thousands of years, the Gulf Stream has sustained European civilization. But another part of the heat has begun to destroy the very continent that nurtured it. Louisiana became the first victim. Imagine the entire island of Bali disappearing from the map. This is the tragedy Louisiana is experiencing. In less than a century, over 2.000 square miles of land in the state have vanished, either eroded by seawater, sunk beneath the sea, or submerged by salt water. Standing at the Mississippi River Delta, this land resembles a body slowly bleeding out. The silt that once shaped the land is now being swept away by the sea. Fishing villages are submerged one by one. Wetlands that once hosted millions of migratory birds have now turned into saltwater seas. This sea that once nurtured life is now slowly devouring it. Within this disaster lies the deepest paradox. The oil extracted from beneath the Gulf of Mexico has become the poison collapsing the surface land. The heat that once gave life now scorches this land from within. Humans, who believed they controlled nature, are slowly being defeated by their own creations. Yet even amidst destruction, one thing remains unchanged. Humans always try to control what they fear. This sea that continuously swallows land is now guarded by warships, surrounded by ambition, from the heat that spawns hurricanes. America sees a reason to strengthen its military power, because in their eyes, any threat can become an excuse for control. On the map, the Gulf of Mexico resembles a dividing line between two worlds. The United States to the north, Latin America to the south. But in Washington's view, this sea is far more than just a line on the map. It is America's southern barrier, an economic and military defense line protecting the nation's core regions. Since World War II, the Gulf of Mexico has served as a training ground for submarines and missile tests. Coastal cities like Pensacola, Corpus Christi, and Key West have become permanent U.S. Navy bases. Reconnaissance aircraft, nuclear submarines, and aircraft carriers depart from here, training day and night, preparing to counter any threat from the south. But the true power of this Gulf lies not in weapons, but beneath the sea surface, oil and natural gas. Hundreds of offshore refineries link energy with national defense. Because in America's geopolitical strategy, whoever controls the Gulf of Mexico controls its resources. No wonder in early 2025, during his second term, President Trump signed an executive order declaring the Gulf of Mexico would be renamed the American Gulf. This symbolic act carries profound political meaning. In the eyes of some analysts, this is far from a simple name change, but an ideological declaration. This sea in America's south is no longer public waters, but a fully sovereign territory of the United States. despite strong opposition from Mexico and lack of recognition from the United Nations. The geopolitical message is clear: this sea belongs to us. Yet within this national pride, perhaps lies another layer of irony. The more urgently America asserts its ownership of this Gulf, the clearer it becomes to the world that the ocean belongs to no one. Humans only have the responsibility to protect it. Because when the ocean fights back, even the strongest power cannot withstand its fury. The Gulf of Mexico was never just a sea. It is a mirror reflecting the relationship between humanity and nature. Small on the map, yet possessing the power to shake the world. Its heat nurtures hurricanes. Its seabed holds energy reserves. Its currents bring vitality to another continent. It warms Europe, protects America, yet slowly devours its own shores. So the question arises: if such a small sea is enough to change the world's fate, what will happen when nature truly begins to retaliate against humanity?